My next guest, former USC head basketball coach, Kevin O'Neill. Kev, what's up, buddy? Kev?
Hello. How's it going, guys?
How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Kev, you're always a passionate coach. Your thoughts on this Rutgers situation?
Just went too far. Obviously, that can't throw balls at guys. You can't put your hands on them.
Right.
You can't. I mean, it crossed the line. I think everybody would agree with that. It's a very difficult situation for a lot of people. I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of fallout. Assistant coaches, athletic administration. A lot of people's lives are affected by it. It's unfortunate, but it did cross the line. That's all there is to it.
Besides the physical stuff, do you think, we live in a politically correct world now. I mean, I don't know where you fall on that line, but do you think there's any verbal abuse that's over the line, too, as far as a coach is concerned, in closed doors?
No, I think you definitely can go over the line with that. I only heard a couple. There wasn't much verbal stuff on the video I saw.
Right.
I could tell there was a lot of physical stuff going on. I couldn't tell how much verbal stuff was going on. I mean, we all want to coach our teams hard and get them to play hard and respond and do all those things. But when it steps over a certain line, it's just not going to be conducive to anybody getting better or doing well or being successful.
Kevin, as a really intense coach, how do you know? Like, where is that line for you?
I don't know necessarily if you say to yourself, well, there's a line here, there's not a line, I'm not going to do this. I think when you disrespect people publicly, that becomes a problem.
Right.
But it's not always public. Practices aren't open necessarily. And it is a kind of a closed little microcosm when you're at practice, correct?
My practices were open.
Oh, really?
Every time to the public year-round. When I say publicly, I mean in front of your teammates. To me, that's in public.
Okay.
You can't do that. You really can't.
Right.
What about the NCAA tournament this year? As nutty as I can ever remember, have you ever seen a tournament this crazy?
I think everybody says that every year.
Yeah, but I know. It's funny. As I was saying that, I was thinking that. But this year is extraordinary.
Well, you know what it is? Parity in college basketball started when they went from 15 scholarships in men's basketball to 13. That meant the two guys on the end of Carolina's bench were now on the end of Wake Forest bench. And the two guys at Wake Forest bench were now on Old Dominion's bench. So that has started the parity in college basketball. That combined with all these guys leaving early has made it very possible for anybody that has players for 4 years to be in the Final Four, which makes for great tournaments every year.
That's true. I mean, but, what Florida Gulf Coast did, although don't you think in tournaments, the Sweet 16, that's really where the fairy tale usually ends for guys?
Yeah, that's usually where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, as you pare down anything, Sweet 16 to Final 8 to Final 4 to Final 2, as you pare down in any tournament, whether it be the NBA playoffs, football, baseball, whatever, the better teams usually come out on top the farther ahead you go. And that makes it really hard for Cinderellas to go deep.
Kevin, I got a question about kind of the nuts and bolts of basketball. So much has been made of the Syracuse Zone, the defense that they're running, how it confuses their opponents. Why is it so difficult to face, and why don't more teams run it?
I think it's difficult to face because of the players that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys are long, they're athletic, they cover ground. And no matter whatever it is you do, man-to-man wise, zone wise, pressing wise, whatever it might be, Jimmy's committed to doing a few things great. And he's made that zone a priority for years. It's their system, it's their program, it's their identity. They buy into it, and they have great players that are playing in that zone. with a bunch of 5'6" guys that wouldn't be quite as good as zone.
Well, why don't more teams that have long athletic players do the same thing? You always hear how it's impossible to replicate that in practice.
Right.
Why don't more teams practice it? Why don't more teams try to throw that in there?
In my case, I was always a man guy. So I approached my man defense like Jimmy approaches his zone. Some people play some zone here, some zone there, but it's mostly a man-to-man country in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Why people don't, I don't know. Jimmy's obviously been committed to it for years, decades actually, and has made it a priority for his team, and that's why they're so good at it.
Do you like Syracuse winning this thing against Michigan and ultimately?
You know, I think Michigan has the three factors you really need to attack zone: great point guard, shooting on the wings, and now the big kid is it McGarry, right?
Yeah.
McGarry.
Yeah.
He can offensive rebound and also has an inside presence.
Right.
So those three things, if they can play in transition and make Syracuse miss, so they can't get back in the zone and set up, their best chance is to play less possessions against the zone. The less you play against it, the better your chances are of winning.
Right.
I think Louisville's the best team.
Okay.
Kev, I want to ask you this real quick. We'll let you go. I thought this was an interesting story. I want to get your reaction to this. Ed Rush, the Pac-12 conference coordinator of officials, resigned after a bunch of negative publicity stemming from a story that he offered $5,000 or a trip to Cancun to any official who ejected or called a technical foul on Arizona coach Sean Miller during last month's conference tournament in Las Vegas. Is that surprising to you, and how do you react to that?
I know Ed very well, have for years. Haven't been in the NBA, and then this year as he's the head of the conference officiating crews. I don't know how the tone of the message was delivered. I can't believe he was serious.
Right.
Obviously.
Right.
I'd had to believe he was joking, and I don't think anybody would take that seriously anyway. In the tone it was said. I mean, obviously you can't give a guy a trip to Cancun for $5,000. I mean, it can't. You know, maybe he wanted to have him get a technical foul or get him back in the box or whatever it might be. But I can't believe he was serious when he said those things.
Yeah, I can't either.
That's unfortunate.
No, I know. I agree with you. I can't believe he's serious about that either. I mean, doesn't make any sense. Sounds like someone has a vendetta against Ed Rush. It's like, okay, we're just using this as an excuse to get rid of him.
Well, you know what can happen sometimes? He was new. After Bill McCabe did it for years. Who knows how they accepted him as officials coming in? And who knows whose feathers he might have ruffled in the whole situation and all that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But there's no way anybody could take seriously, I'm going to give you a trip to Cancun. No way.
I would hope not. I would hope not. Kev, listen, we appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us, and thanks for your insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon, all right?
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Kevin O'Neill, former USC head coach.